Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, we've not mentioned the word blockchain technology for at least 2 days now, have we? And if I had a cookie for every time I said the word blockchain this month, I'm pretty sure I'd have a full jar of cookies right now. But I am fascinated by the stories I'm increasingly hearing at the moment about how this technology is making the world a better place. For example, AidTech is a company that uses digital identity and blockchain technology to revolutionize how governments, enterprises and NGOs deliver digital entitlements. Being the first company in the world to successfully deliver aid to Syrian refugees completely transparently, AidTech is leveraging blockchain technology to truly make a difference in every sense of the word. And when I delved a little bit deeper, it quickly became apparent just how big the scope is here. And we're talking restoring donation transparency, facilitating the integration of refugees, intersecting blockchain with humanitarian aid, and revolutionising remittance payments for the world's unbanked. All to bring social and financial inclusion into areas of the world that have been neglected for so long. In the media, technology is often given the label of being the bad guy, but I wanted to get the CEO of AidTech on the show today, just to highlight to everyone listening how technology is transforming the world and making it a better place, but by ultimately leading the way with the very simple human condition of wanting to help each other out. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Singapore, where Joseph Thompson, the CEO and co-founder of AidTech, is waiting to speak with us today. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Joseph Thompson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called AidTech. Basically, who I am is somebody who wanted to bring transparency where transparency would need it the most. So in terms of international aid, donations, and government payments, we wanted to leverage blockchain technology. And with that, we became the first company in the world to deliver international aid using blockchain technology almost 3 years ago now at this stage.
Fantastic. Now, when I was researching you guys, I quickly learned that AidTech is a company that uses digital identity and blockchain technology to revolutionise how governments, enterprises, NGOs deliver digital entitlements. But can you just set the scene a little bit and offer an overview of exactly what problems you set out to solve from the very beginning, and also why blockchain is such a crucial element of that solution?
Yeah, sure. So when we first looked at this space, we saw that people globally lack basically the transparency to get the right entitlements delivered to them. So you have an agreement of 193 countries signed up to the Sustainable Development Goals. They're the new Millennium Goals, basically, and they're set of 17 different targets to try and solve some of the world's biggest problems. In that, you have target 16.9 that says everybody should have a legal identity by 2030. So we said, okay, if you have this problem here that needs to be solved where people need an identity, we see the identity as the core of our team. Imagine if you're trying to go down and collect social welfare and you go down without any ID, you would not get any services, you would not get any support. If you have an ID is core for you to be accepted to getting social or economic entitlements directly to you. So we see identity as absolutely core of basic human rights, you know, if it's nationally within a country getting welfare, or if it's internationally getting international aid. The reason why we use blockchain is because to solve that problem of transparency, you have these industries such as fintech and regtech and legal tech, but there is no industry for transparency. So we wanted to use a technology where you could guarantee when somebody's due an entitlement, say it's aid or welfare or donations, the blockchain allows that to get to them directly. So marrying the idea of solving a massive social problem, say on behalf of governments, and using technology, which was decentralized, it ensures that transparent transactions actually happen in the first place.
And I believe that AidTech was one of the first companies, or if not the first company in the world to successfully deliver aid to Syrian refugees completely transparently, and is also leveraging blockchain technology to really make a difference. So can you expand on that by telling the listeners about what in 2015, when a camp in Lebanon, for example, unwittingly became the first to use blockchain technology as a means of receiving humanitarian aid?
Yeah, so we had the idea that we said, okay, can we use this technology in a way where if we can prove we can work in this one location, it can work everywhere. And we got a lot of support from the Irish Red Cross. And what we said is to the Red Cross is, do you want to use our technology as a pilot? Started off somewhere where you need transparency, what you deliver to beneficiaries. So they were working with Syrian refugees, not just on the border in Syria and Lebanon, a place called North Tripoli. And what the Red Cross did was they gave it the idea of digital identities to these 500 Syrian refugees. And those identities were actually equipped with $20 each. So think of your driver's license and your credit card becoming one. So these Syrian refugees actually used this identity, handed it into a local participating store. And they simply went into a local shopkeeper. The shopkeeper scanned this essentially plastic card. And the shopkeeper could see what credit was on this person's plastic card. Now, we linked the value on the credit of the international aid to a refugee's identity. You know, the refugee, at the end of the day, managed their own data. So we gave out 500 identities here with the Red Cross, and these 500 identities were worth $20 each. So the refugees were able to go in and buy products worth $20. Now, within the first 2 hours, we had 45 attempts of fraud. So these identities plastic cards were copied, photocopied, went into the shopkeeper, but instantly the shopkeeper could see that they were fraudulent copies, while at the same time, the donor to the Red Cross and the Irish Red Cross could see these fraudulent transactions actually happen on the blockchain. So when this happened, we knew we were onto something big, that we can say, if we can use this technology in a difficult situation here to actually eliminate fraud and corruption, it's much bigger than just aid. It's welfare, it's transparent donations, it's remittances, and so on. But that was the very first time international aid was ever used, or the blockchain was ever used to deliver international aid.
And like you said there, it really is much, much bigger than just aid. I mean, AidTech's platform also enables entitlements such as welfare, remittances, donations, and healthcare. And essentially, they're all digitised and delivered through that blockchain technology. I mean, can you tell me more about that? It's fascinating.
Yeah, and that's right. It just doesn't start off, it's not just aid. We just started off with aid as the first step in. So think of anywhere that you need transparency, if it's a developed or developing economy where it's welfare delivery, if it's consumers making donations, if it's a person sending remittances to somebody else across borders, or even health entitlements. So, yeah, it can be it's digitizing that process where you need transparency. So we think of what we create as almost a transparency engine. We want to be in the middle of that to guarantee something goes from point A to point B in a very transparent manner. So we give you an example. We did another project very recently with a Dutch NGO called Farm Access. And Farm Access deliver prenatal and postnatal care to pregnant women and women who've just had children in Tanzania. And what we did here was, if a pregnant woman was going for a health visit, she would go to the local health centre, local clinic, see if she needed some medical entitlements, and so on. What we actually did here was the donor and the pregnant woman could see exactly what entitlements that woman was due for. So if a woman, say, missed a health visit, say, at 4 o'clock on a Friday, using a blockchain and using the data of these visits for the women to the clinics, if they missed one of their health visits, it would trigger an alert called the smart contract. We've actually had the first child born on the blockchain, and what that means is these particular women who are getting these medical entitlements delivered to them, one of the women had a child. So now that mother manages the data for that child. So that child, instead of being financially or socially excluded, is getting a digital identity, building their own credit profile from the first day they're born. Now, what that means in terms of efficiency, in terms of transparency of the Dutch organisation that we're working with here, they know exactly what entitlements are going to the women, but she's also using that data for her child going forward to receive medical entitlements, educational entitlements, and so on.
Wow, that's inspirational. It really is. So for people that are listening that are unfamiliar with this kind of work or this sector, I mean, what is it that AidTech is doing to bring transparency to that donation process? And also, why do you think it is so important in the charity sector right now?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. The way we look at it is two ways. If I look at it from a governmental or even a corporate point of view, I want to know where my money's going. I want to know what impact my money's having and so on. From a donation point of view, if you can imagine, for the first time you can actually use technology where I would make a donation, I could donate money or buy something to a person on the other side of the world. And I know the moment that they get to them, I know that will only get to them and nobody else. So what you're essentially doing here is we're leveraging the blockchain to unlock potentially billions of dollars that can actually be used for basically good causes. But it's helping governments, it's helping NGOs and corporates having better transparency of the data that actually reaches the end beneficiary. So if you can think of the idea of a blockchain is like a public library, if that makes sense, where if I make a donation, that transaction can only happen once and can never happen again. And now I'm safe in the knowledge knowing that my donation will get to one organization or to one person without ever going missing. And if that transaction doesn't happen, at least I know that transaction, my donation was never spent in the first place. Likewise, if I make a donation, it goes to an end beneficiary and they redeem a product or a service in a local clinic or a health center, whatever it may be, I know exactly what my money is being used for. So I think when you put this into context of not just developing countries, but developed economies, what that means for welfare delivery. We know there's a lot of fraud that happens in developed economies because of people making fraudulent welfare claims for family members and so on.
So AidTech are involved in many projects that provide affordable and traceable remittance services. But just for anyone listening to help them build that picture in their head of how it all works, I mean, how are you helping the unbanked and ensuring that remittance fees are low cost? And also, how are you helping those send money home and can specify exactly how that money will be spent, like you mentioned in that scenario a few minutes ago?
Yeah. So if we look at the global average fee for sending remittances, it's about 7.48%. Remittances is a $600 billion market, and it's usually the poorer the country, the higher the transaction fees are. So if I give you an example, if you're my brother and you're living in Serbia, we're doing a project now with United Nations Developing Program and the Serbian government. If I was in Germany and you were in Serbia, I can actually send $50 to you, for example, but I'm sending it to your identity. So that basically means I can pay your electricity bill, I can pay your gas bill, but I'm sending that top up to you directly. So we're not sending cash remittances, for example. It's conditional remittances where I'm actually helping pay for a service or a product that you actually need. So by doing this, we are bringing down the cost of remittances because we're not just, say, touching cash, but we're helping people, and we can actually direct exactly where the money goes. Now, in that scenario, we never get the end beneficiary data. We do not even touch the end beneficiary data. But we're just this transparency engine that guarantees, hey, I'm sending remittances, but I'm using my remittances to actually pay for a local service or a local product or service that you actually may need. And it goes back to the idea of, because we're not touching cash, we're putting conditions on the actual remittances, we're able to bring those transaction fees from an average of 7.48% down in, say, a global average of 7.5%. The project that we're doing in Serbia, we're bringing it below 3%, which is a massive, massive saving. Now, what we're saying, if you can bring the percentage fees down drastically, you're actually unlocking billions of dollars potentially that can actually be used in the economy.
So how is that big data that is gathered through the platform being used at the moment? And equally, I suppose, how does it help support future developments as well as a result of that?
As we're quite aware of all the stories and all the hacks that are happening in the media these days with data, especially in developing economies, you have to be very, very careful of how the data is used. So, we're very happy and very upfront when we say we never get end beneficiary data. We do not know who the end beneficiary is. That data belongs to the end beneficiary and their clients, such as governments or aid organizations who are delivering these services. So, for example, the project that we're doing in Tanzania, we were able to determine from the first 67 women that we used on the project, we were able to determine that there was machines broken to delivering some of these medical services, such as to for blood tests. We could also determine that the zinc tablets were running low in some of the clinics in some of these areas in Tanzania. So when we went back to our clients and said, hey, we can actually tell you what drugs you're actually running down low on here, because having the data will actually tell us exactly what products and services women are redeeming, and what products and services the local clinic cannot actually administer because the products have been sold out and so on. So what this data is telling us now is these organizations and the government funders can know ahead of time what products they actually need to buy, what services they need to deliver on behalf of the end beneficiaries. So by having that, what we see this, where this is going, is having this data for predictive analysis to say potential, we need potentially a stockpile of this medicine for X amount of women in this part of the country and so on, because the data is telling us this. So using the blockchain as a transparency engine is one piece, but the data that sits on top is what we believe is going to be the game changer. So governments, donors, and so on have better use of their funds and know how to actually spend them more wisely.
So when it comes to delivering digital identities to these vulnerable populations, am I right in saying that it can also assist in facilitating the integration of refugees too?
Yeah, and that's one of the projects. And if we look at globally, there's 2.4 billion people will need a legal identity by 2040. And if you look at the refugee population now, it's about 60 million people and internally displaced people. I think the use case of a refugee moving across borders and not having any identity is so compelling. If you give a person a digital identity on the blockchain, they may move across borders, but as they move across borders, their identity stays with them forever. Their transaction history is linked to their identity, and that stays with them forever. No government can take that away from them. Nobody can take their identity away from them in that case. So we're very proud to do the first delivery of international aid with refugees. We partner obviously with the Irish Red Cross, and they're dealing with these people on a day-to-day ground level basis. We're just the techies. We're not the experts at rolling these projects out on the ground. But simply we're just providing our solution on a platform to our clients who are dealing with these problems, and to make their lives a little bit easier and hopefully more effective.
And you really are doing just that. It's clear to see that you're making a huge difference. So with companies like AidTech bringing social and financial inclusion to the world's unserved populations, how do you think that progress is actually going to reshape the world for the better looking forward?
I think it all goes back to, I always look at it in two ways. What's the economic value that this technology can bring? So can this value be brought to, say, governments on one side, so they can actually go back to taxpayers, and they can go back to people and say, hey, this is where your money's going and this is the impact it can have. But on the other side, on the consumer side, if people who are making donations, such as me and you, if we're making donations in a very, very traceable and transparent manner, it actually unlocks a lot of new funding that was previously unavailable. So if you are having consumers using this new transparent technology, but also governments using this technology to deliver service, it's a win-win for everybody, because at the end of the day, it's the end beneficiary who are going to gain the most, hopefully cutting out the middleman and driving down costs, but also improving inefficiencies in any systems.
So what's the grand vision for AidTech? Is there anything else that you can share with us today about what you're doing?
Yeah, so we've been very lucky to date that we've won a lot of international awards over the last year, such as Christine Lagarde at the IMF gave us Game Changer of the Year, to winning MasterCard's Company of the Year and IBM's Company of the Year. So our view on the world is, if you get this technology out to people en masse, you're not just using a technology for the sake of using it. Using the technology is going to have massive beneficial societal good, but also unlocking new funding and so on. The grand vision for us is to bring the world of, say, people in developing countries together, but also people in developed economies using the platform for, say, traceable donations, or using it for remittances, and corporates to actually use the technology for CSR programs and so on. So we want to be in the middle of actually taking that approach of using this technology again to the masses of people. We have a lot of big announcements and projects coming up over the next few weeks. I don't know if I can actually say them, so I better not, just to be safe. But I'm happy to keep you in the loop when those projects actually happen.
Fantastic. Well, before I do let you go, could I just ask that you remind the listeners of where they can find you guys online, and also contact your member of your team if they have any questions about the conversation that we started today?
Sure, yeah. So the website is aid.technology, so aid.technology, or at aid technology on Twitter. And you can find us at info@aid.technology, or contact myself, Joseph, so JOSEPH, at aid.technology. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. I love what you're doing here, and the scope of what you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. And like we said earlier on, it's much, much bigger than just aid. I mean, we're looking at welfare, remittances, donations, and healthcare to be digitised and delivered through blockchain technology, but most importantly, in a completely transparent manner that actually restores donation transparency in the charity sector and delivers digital identities to vulnerable populations. And like I always say at the end of every episode, is that technology works best when it brings people together. And what you're doing here with technology is not only bringing developing countries together, but also economies too, and it's phenomenal, it really is. So a big thank you for coming on and sharing that with me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
I love how AidTech's platform enables entitlements like aid, welfare, remittances, donations and healthcare to be digitised and delivered through blockchain technology in a completely transparent manner. And it's easy to see why in January this year he was named as one of the world's most visionary leaders. But what do you think of the points raised in today's show? And do you have a vision of how this blockchain tech can make a real impact on our world? As always, this show's not just about me preaching to you. It's not just about the guest talking about his or her solution. This is about your input too, and how you would like to make the world a better place using technology. That's what I want to get out of you today, because it's hidden deep inside of every one of us. We know the changes that we can make, and the technology is there. So let's share those insights, expertise and visions. Let's see what we can come up with together. And you can do all that by simply emailing me at techblogwriter@outlook.com or tweeting me at Neil C. Hughes. I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. I think the work Joseph is doing is phenomenal. But equally, a big, big thank you to each and every one of you out there listening in 165 different countries. So I'm looking forward to continuing sharing diversity of thought and how technology can transform the world again with you. And we'll do it all again tomorrow. So thanks for listening, gang. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.